the last 2 chapters are reading. The first 6 chapters are actually calculation. A lot of calculation, a lot of mathematics lah. So that's the hardest part sebab kalau biasa physical class, it will be easier for us to communicate, to exchange ideas, to see each other. Then I can see you guys while you're doing the work. Then because normally kalau lecture memang reaction lecture ni memang kalau physical lecture students akan busy lah dengan kertas, dengan mengira, dengan calculator. But since pandemic, online ni tu cabaran saya lah nak mengajar reaction, mengajar subjek yang technical ni bila tak face to face, that will be the challenge. Tapi since only 2 of you, so I think quite good so that I can at least have a better attention to you guys lah for these courses. Okay, so before I start, let me share my screen dulu. Okay, alright. So next, just information about me. Saya rasa contact number semua dah ada, so tak payah bimbang lah. So any communication, we dah ada WhatsApp group. We can actually discuss through WhatsApp group. And kalau ada apa-apa submission ke apa-apa, email pun boleh. But again, you can just contact me, then we can discuss lah on the arrangement of submission of assignments, so on and so forth. For this course, saya guna VLE. I don't know whether you guys are familiar. I think tahu kot. So biasanya material saya semua is on VLE. But don't worry for the Flexilearn sebab kita dah ada channel dalam, kalau you guys pergi channel yang Flexilearn ni, I created a special channel for you guys. All the materials already in the Teams. So nanti kamu pergi part files tu, kamu tengok saya dah letak dah untuk laboratory, untuk mini project, notes, semua saya akan letak dalam bahagian files dalam Teams ni. So you don't need to go VLE, you can just look from the Teams punya files itself for channel yang Flexilearn ni. Then video for class, normally what I do, saya normally upload dalam YouTube sebab kalau bagi video yang biasa besar kan nak download is gonna be hard for you guys. So normally I will upload on YouTube. So lepas kelas ni saya akan download, saya akan upload dalam YouTube. I will share the link to you guys. So you guys can just see the video anytime you want through YouTube lah. So easier rather than kena download. You just see the link. Every chapter I will put the link on YouTube. You guys just tengok on YouTube lah, on the video. Okay. So this all on the material lah. So material semua dalam Teams in your channel. I will give accordingly lah. Macam hari ni punya briefing, punya notes pun saya dah letak sebenarnya dalam Teams tu for your reference. And then saya ni kadang-kadang cakap cepat. Tu memang student will always say that I tend to speak a little bit fast. So kalau you feel that it's too fast, just feel free to interrupt me. If you have questions pun, jangan malu-malu. I think our age is about the same. I assume our age is about the same. I'm not that young or that old also, but I think our age are about the same. So saya rasa dynamic kita sebagai pelajar lecturer berlainan sikit lah compare dengan pelajar lain. So you have questions, nak tanya apa-apa ke ataupun nak komen ke, just interrupt me at any time. I encourage as well kalau ada discussion ke, so on and so forth. Then to begin the class, I would like to just introduce first lah what we're going to learn in reaction engineering. So I think you have heard about reaction, tindak balas tu, I think everybody knows. Okay, so you have learned in I think chemistry, kalau ada ambil class chemistry or a very basic one, you know reaction is very diverse. There are so many types of reaction. Sebab tu, that's why the design of reactor become complex or difficult. Or that's why subjek ni sampai 4 credit hours. Sebab due to the diversity of reaction, we have so many types of reaction, and this will influence the design of our reactor. And then you also know, reaction ni is influenced by many parameters. Okay, ada temperature, we have pressure, we have flow rate, sometimes we will use catalyst. So when we have all these parameter, the design of reactor pun will have to change according to this. And then don't forget, sometimes our chemical can be in liquid phase, gas phase, solid phase. That will also influence our reactor design. And sometimes reaction is isothermal, means there's no changes of temperature during reaction. But there are also reaction yang non-isothermal. So means there are changes of temperature during the reaction. So this will also affect our reactor design. So later when you learn for the next 17 weeks, we kena faham, okay, when this change, kalau kita ada tindak balas yang macam ni, the characteristics macam ni, how it influence our reactor design. And don't forget, reactor pun ada banyak jenis. So each types, we have to tune ataupun we have to change our design according to the nature of the reaction. So that's the complexity cost ni lah. Sebab macam cost ni dia tak straightforward. You have to really consider kalau factor ni how it affects the calculation, meaning the affects the reactor design. So tu challenge je lah. Right. So course learning plan, course syllabus. Saya belum upload lagi, saya upload dalam Teams for you guys to see. But basically senang lah, dalam reaction ada 8 chapters, right? So I will cover everything in 70 weeks lah, alright. So now we will just talk a little bit about reaction in general. So usually I will use a very simple example, simple analogy for you guys to understand the simple terms first. So the first term you understand, if we have reaction, kalau ada tindak balas, we will always have the starting material, okay, or we call it as reactant. Sometimes kita pun panggil inlet, or we call it raw materials. Okay, so any reaction mesti ada the reactant. Okay, so this reactant will then undergo what we call as reaction. Okay, but sometimes we might ask, how do we know a reaction has taken place? So simplest way nak tahu whether a reaction has taken place, if you put in a raw material, after certain time, you get a completely new product, means you get something new, which is different in nature, different in its chemical characteristics of the raw material, then it means a reaction has taken place. Senang je, kalau saya masuk A, saya keluar dapat B, maknanya tindak balas berlaku. Kalau saya letak A, dapat balik A, means the reaction has not taken place. So after reaction, you will get what we call as product. So sometimes we call product, sometimes we call outlet, but the meaning is still the same. Something that we get after the reaction has occurred. Okay. Now, reaction, as I told you, akan banyak jenis tindak balas. Tapi dan semua tindak balas ni must occur in a what we call as reactor. So reactor is the equipment or the apparatus where reactions takes place. So as simple as baking a cake, okay, saya bagi analogy paling mudah, bila kita nak bake a cake, the raw material will be flour, eggs, sometimes you use chocolate, sometimes you use oil. That will be our raw material. Your product is a cake, and this baking reaction will occur in an oven. So basically oven tu adalah reactor sebenarnya, sebab dalam oven ni the baking occurs, the reaction occurs, you get the product. So in this case, the oven is a reactor. Okay, so now if you realize the design of a reactor is also quite complex. Why? Okay, one of the factor you realize, if kita nak bake a cake, temperature is very important, right? Sebab kalau kita temperature too low, kek kita je tak masak. If the temperature is too high, kek kita terbakar. We have a burnt cake. So the temperature of the oven plays an important part. And as well as, if you realize the distribution of heat, kalau kita nak pastikan kek kita tu masak sekata, all parts are cooked evenly, the distribution of heat also must be evenly towards all parts of the cake, so that the reaction occurs uniformly, semua tindak balas berlaku pada keadaan yang sama, then you get a perfect cake where all parts are cooked at the right temperature. So that's one of factors. So means for those, when they are designing the oven, they have to actually make sure the temperatures are consistent, uniform, and the heats are distributed evenly. Next, baking time. So baking time masa pun plays a part. Okay, so you have to ensure the baking time is correct, because too short or too long, you will get either again undercooked cake or overcooked cake. So baking time also plays a part. So when they are designing the oven, they have to ensure the set of time for baking time tu mesti cover the usual baking time that is needed for a cake. Okay, so that's a very simple example. Even the design of an oven for a baking, for just to bake a cake, also they will consider all these factors. Besides, of course, there are other factors as well. Okay, Then now, when we go to the real chemical plant, okay, let me talk about a real chemical plant. That is why reactor is very important. So, for example, in this reaction, okay, kalau I think you guys have heard of ammonia. So, ammonia is really commonly used as a fertilizer, NH3, ammonia, NH3. So, at one time, someone has found that ammonia can be produced using nitrogen and hydrogen. Means if you add nitrogen gas and hydrogen gas, you're supposed to get ammonia. Okay. But then they find out, okay, nitrogen gas, kalau kita perasan, kita punya atmosphere, 72% are actually nitrogen gas. You know, it exists naturally in our air. It's actually 72% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and about 0.03 carbon dioxide. So bayangkan, we actually have free nitrogen. You know, we can actually use this nitrogen to produce ammonia. But then don't forget, dalam keadaan semula jadi, nitrogen is very stable. Okay, kalau kita just letak, we take this nitrogen from air, we react with hydrogen, nothing will happen because nitrogen is a very stable gas. So what happened is this Haber-Bosch, okay, there's two people. There are two chemists. The name is Sir Haber, Sir Bosch. They found that if you put nitrogen and hydrogen in a vessel, in an enclosed vessel, at a very high temperature and pressure, okay, at sufficiently high temperature, high pressure, they can actually react to form ammonia. Okay, so the reaction can occur, but at a very specific operating condition, which actually they found out must be at very high temperature, high pressure. And that is how they found a way to produce ammonia, which is used as a fertilizer. Okay, so that's the idea, that this reaction can take place, but it must be in a vessel, and the vessel is called a reactor. So I think if you guys go to any chemical plant, if you are working already in a chemical plant, you realize that memang the heart of any chemical plant is actually reactor. And if you are any investment, bila when companies are talking about expanding their plant, talking about improving the capacity, improving the productivity, most of the time they will talk about improving the reactors. But a more efficient, more optimized reactor means more product, which means more profit. Okay, so that's the simplest example in a real chemical plant and an example in a household, how reactions takes place. All right, so then it comes to the part when what do we going to learn in reaction engineering? Okay, when we are actually designing a reactor, okay, it always will start from a very simple process. Di mana first they have to start doing the experiment, what we call as lab scale or bench scale. Means a chemist usually, okay, kat lab, okay, they will try to do this experiment first in the lab. Okay, so they will establish the basic data, basic experimental data. And data ni will be used to establish the chemical kinetics, which we will learn later. Nanti kita akan belajar daripada eksperimen kat lab tu, how do we develop our data, how we develop the chemical kinetics. And from these chemical kinetics, then only we can use by an engineer, usually a chemical engineer, to design the reactor. So that's the role of a chemist, establish experimental data, establish kinetics. Then this goes to a chemical engineer who will use it to actually design the reactor. So every reaction, they have its own uniqueness in terms of chemical kinetics, which involve rate of reaction, rate law, which we will learn later. So reaction engineering ni will cover from the very basic experimental until finally you can actually design a reactor specifically for this reaction. And at the same time, you will learn how you will tweak the design, or you will actually understand the process when we have maybe different reaction ke, or you want to change certain parameter ke. Ni pun akan kita belajar macam mana dia berpengaruh, how it influence our reactor design. So again, of course, we also have to consider operating reactor at the safest and most efficient manner lah. I think in any chemical plant, yang penting is efficient dan penting is also safe. So we will learn that as well. Okay. So dalam chapter ni, we have 8 chapter, as I told you, ada 8 chapter. Tapi yang part yang susah sikit pasal reaction ni, which I always tell my student, dia actually subjek yang membina atau subjek yang how do I say it? It's a building chapter, meaning like I told you, right, I will teach you from experimental lab sampai design reactor. So means apa yang kamu belajar kat chapter 1, you will use in chapter 2, what you learn in chapter 2 and 1 will use in chapter 3 sampailah chapter 7 and 8. So macam katakan if we miss out or sometimes certain chapter you don't really understand, problem dia akan bertimpa-timpa lah, sebab let's say you tak faham chapter 2, then benda tu akan bawa ke chapter 3. So chapter 3 pun akan jadi problem, dan chapter 4 pun akan jadi problem. So in the class, just anytime kalau rasa macam tak boleh catch up or rasa macam you need further explanation, sebab saya tahu saya memang cakap cepat. So that's my fear lah, if you think that you really need help, please just stop me anytime, then I will try to repeat again. Tapi kalau 2 orang memang best lah, saya paling suka student sikit-sikit. Kalau macam student ramai, like last semester I got about 80 student online. So 80 student online tu memang a very big challenge, especially macam tutorial, nak catch siapa yang boleh buat, siapa yang tak boleh buat tu memang challenge lah. So 2 student is perfect for me. So just feel free to interrupt lah. Alright, so the chapter will involve a little bit on reactor sizing, rate law, kita akan pasal rate law, we will design isothermal reactor, we will design that non-isothermal reactor design, we will talk about catalytic reaction, sebab reactor usually kalau kat chemical plant, the real chemical plant, most of the reaction will need catalyst, sebab catalyst yang akan make sure we will get higher conversion, more product. So we cannot escape talking about catalytic reactors, reactor yang menggunakan mangkin. So that's also will be on our discussion. Okay, now talk about course assessment. Okay, course assessment tu reaction ni tak susah sangat. Kita ada hanya 3 for coursework and 1 final exam lah. So for the coursework, we will have 2 tests. So 1 test is about 10%. So as usual lah, I think with the other courses, test minggu 7-8, satu lagi test dalam minggu 15-16 lah. Right, then we have mini project. Okay, later I will explain about the mini project. So mini project 20%. So mini project is basically design a reactor. So really talking about each group will design a reactor. We will discuss later macam mana. And then next one is lab. So I'm not too sure about you guys how the lab going to be, sebab dalam timetable ada lab, tapi buat masa sekarang memang kami tak buka lagi lab lah. They will open at certain time. So we will discuss later sebab there's 2 of you. So another option may be combine dengan the normal student, the normal reaction student, or we will see macam mana lah arrangement for the lab, okay, when the time come, but not so soon lah. I think usually dalam minggu 6-7 onwards, it's not so soon, and we also don't have any information yet on when the lab can be open. Right, then next we have final examination, which is 40%. Right, okay. So then mini project. Let me talk first about mini project. Okay, mini project ni, as you guys know, memang kerja berkumpulan. Okay, so normally in a group, we will have 4 person in a group. But in this case, 2 of you, I think it's a bit impossible kalau nak buat satu mini project 2 orang. So kalau you guys don't mind, can I combine you guys dengan group student biasa, boleh tak? Sebab satu group tu 4 orang. Sekarang group student biasa saya sekarang ada 22. So 22, kalau satu group 4 orang, akan ada satu group yang hanya 2 orang. So saya rasa macam saya ingatkan nak combine 2 orang group biasa ni dengan U2 lah. Means 2 student biasa, 2 student fleksi dalam 1 group. Tapi don't worry sebab mini project reaction ni, walaupun dia adalah satu projek berkumpulan, tapi setiap orang ada dia punya own assignment, dia punya part dia sendiri. Means setiap orang ada part dia selesaikan part dia combine jadi satu mini project. So we'll need some discussion but not really that much. Just maybe you guys can WhatsApp to communicate, tapi it doesn't really affect whether you are in flexi or in the normal class, sebab memang setiap student tu ada part-part dia sendiri. Okay, so I will explain further lah. Right, so mini project ni ada 2 part. Okay, we call it as 2 stage lah, stage 1 and stage 2, sebab saya pun tak nak kalau macam kita buat nanti akhir semester lambat semua kerja, nanti kesian juga kamu lah sebab kamu pun ada kerja lain juga. So saya biasa buat 2 stage. Stage pertama tu ada dia punya own task, And stage kedua pun ada task dia tersendiri lah. So stage 1 ni basically proses introduction kepada projek tu. So dalam case mini project ni, setiap group akan di-assign satu chemical and the production rate. Okay, so satu chemical, satu production rate. So dalam stage 1 ni, they just discuss about proses tu dulu. That little bit about the reactor, which I will explain later lah. Then stage 2 baru kita design reactor. So that's the perjalanan lah. So stage 1, the deadline is week 7, but again I understand for you all, I understand about the deadline, don't worry. So macam deadline ni kita nego lah. I understand Flexilearn, you guys have other responsibility. So deadline tu nanti kita nego bila nak hantar lah. Tapi usually just to tell that usually dalam week 7-8, stage 1, stage 2 dalam week 14-15 and so on. So once you submit stage 1, dah habislah kerja kamu, means kamu dah siap almost half of the part, and then the second stage you siap the second part of the mini project. Okay, so mini project dia pun tak susah sebenarnya. Okay, maybe yang bukan susah lah, maybe yang a bit sikit kerja stage 1, sebab stage 1 ni lebih pasal how to say, to talk about the process itself, right? So kalau tengok dalam slide ni, stage 1 ni tengok saya ada tulis dah student 1, student 2, student 3, student 4. Means setiap student tu ada part dia sendiri. So later bila dah combine group dengan student biasa, ada 4 orang ni, just discuss lah siapa nak jadi student 1, siapa nak jadi student 2, siapa nak jadi student 3, siapa nak jadi student 4. So let's say katakan Aizat student 3, Hidayah student 4, Aizat just buat part student 3 lah, Hidayah just buat part student 4. Itu just combine, compile, dia jadi satu report. So if you ask me, actually tak banyak pun. Setiap part, setiap stage 1 ni, the most you write pun maybe about 2-3 page. It doesn't really need to be long. Sebab bagi saya, for me bukan pasal nak report yang panjang. Asalkan you address apa yang nak dalam report. Sebab dalam guideline ni, saya dah letak dalam Teams, saya dah beritahu dah apa yang saya nak. So as long as you address apa yang dah diminta, done. Okay, so tak payah tulis sampai 10-20 pages. Memang saya beritahu student saya tak payah. I understand you have, not only you guys, the rest of the student has a lot of report. So I don't need a long report. You address apa yang diminta, dah okay. Okay, so nanti once saya dah dapat grouping, nanti saya akan beritahu lah, saya akan inform, then perhaps I can let you communicate with the normal student untuk discuss. Tapi like I said, okay, walaupun you are Flexilearn, but the tasks are separate. Everybody has its own assigned part, so should not be that much of problem. Okay, so this is for stage 1. So stage 1 ni basically untuk mini project ni, peranan setiap student. Okay, kalau student tu student 1, dia supposed to review proses yang existing process. So for example, your title is let's say production of phenol. Okay, maknanya kamu akan design reactor untuk production of phenol. So student 1 ni dia akan discuss dululah apa possible production process. Sebab biasanya you know, nak hasilkan any chemical, it might have different processes, right? Which usually because of different reaction. So tak semestinya satu chemical tu hanya boleh dihasilkan daripada satu reaction. It might be different types of reaction. So that's the role of student 1. Dia review dulu apa proses yang dia boleh, apa proses yang is used in the industry to produce that assigned chemical. And then student 2, the role is to discuss about the raw material. Let's say dah pilih method 1, katakan proses 1. So student 2 ni discuss lah untuk proses 1 ni, apa raw material yang kita gunakan. At the same time, dia pun discuss sikit pasal produk yang dia assign lah. For example, kalau phenol, dia discuss sikit pasal phenol. Okay, so just background study on the chemicals, which is the product and raw material. Student 3 pula dia akan discuss pasal reaction tu, sebab nak design reactor, you really need to understand the reaction. So student 3 discuss pasal reaction, so dia kena tahulah operating condition semua, but it is also from literature. So it's check the literature, operating condition dia, berapa temperature, berapa pressure, so on and so forth. And lastly student 4 dia since before I forget, you will also be assigned a type of reactor. Sebab sebenarnya banyak jenis reaktor. So each group pun akan assign satu reactor. So student 4 ni akan review lah the assigned reactor. So apa karakteristik reactor ni, so on and so forth. So that's for stage 1. So again I said stage 1 definitely not more than 5 pages. The most also 3 or 4 pages pun saya dah okay as long as you address what is needed in the guideline. And then stage 2. Stage 2 ni actually calculation. So calculation pun again sama. Stage student 1 ada part dia, student 2 ada part dia, student 3 ada part dia, student 4 ada part dia. Nampak macam panjang tau, tapi ni calculation. Don't worry too much. Again, the calculation is the most also 2-3 page. Nothing more than 2-3 page. But there's a different types of different calculation is needed. So macam student 1, dia kena buat mass balance balik sebab sama je, when you talk about reaction, you talk about reactor, mesti kena buat mass balance. So student 1 akan buat mass balance. So apa yang dia pernah belajar dulu ni, dia kena apply balik lah buat mass balance. Tapi just mass balance for the reactor je, bukannya the entire plant. Satu equipment je, reactor tu je dia punya mass balance. So simple. Then student 2 akan buat stoichiometric table, which you will probably not familiar, but we will learn later. So akan buat stoichiometric table untuk student 2, calculation. Student 3 akan do on the kinetics part. Sebab kalau, like I told you, kalau nak design reactor, mesti tahu kinetics part. So student 3 ni will then do the kinetic study, right? And finally, student 4 will do the calculation on the reactor design, which is basically to find the volume lah of the reactor, how big is the reactor, based on the chemical kinetics done by student 3. So that's all for the part of the mini project. So nampak macam panjang, tapi actually it's not very simple. I will not say very simple, but I do it very concise. So you already know what you need to do. Tak payah fikir apa yang kena buat ni, apa nak kena letak. Saya dah letak secara concise. Okay, apa you need in number 1, what you need to do in number 2, number 3, and number 4, and number 5. So not only for FlexiLearn, for the normal student also the same thing. So it's very concise report on the design of reactor. So why this is important? Sebab nanti you will take, next semester you will take design project 1. Saya yang ajar jugalah sebenarnya design project 1. So dalam design project 1 nanti kita akan design chemical plant. So one part of it nak design reactor. So basically when you dah buat reaction engineering ni, you dah settle part design reactor untuk design project 1 next semester. Sebab tu mini project saya ni macam to prepare you for the next semester, which probably I will see you again for design project 1. Okay, right. Then submission, tak payah print it. Saya dah lama pun tak suruh sudah hantar printed report. It's just a report hantar dalam VLE, or you can just email me in a PDF format. So no need printing, no need to hantar anything. Just buat dalam bentuk PDF, submit to me through email or through VLE, it's already done. Okay, so that's the easiest part lah, especially during pandemic ni. Alright, so next test. So ni benda paling menakutkan lah test, but okay je, usually okay je. Kalau dia subjek ni, kalau tanya senior akan kata susah, but when I see the results, actually score je, students actually can score quite well. Sebab dia kalau benda tu kalau student faham, dia memang boleh score very high. So dia ada dua extreme. Yang faham akan score very high. But those yang macam ketinggalan, kalau macam dia tak boleh catch up, tu yang susah lah. Bila dia tak boleh catch up satu chapter, dia akan susah chapter yang seterusnya, so dia tak boleh score. So, but if you don't miss out, you really really aware of it, it's actually not that hard lah. Okay, so we have 2 tests. So test 1, chapter 1-3, test 2, chapter 4-6. So no reading at all, is all actually calculation. Tak ada pun menghafal apa-apa, memang semua pengiraan. Later you will see kita akan buat, we will use differentiation, integration, pengamiran, pembezaan. It's actually mathematics. But again, if you ask me personally, tak susah pun. I will do my best to make sure you understand the calculation. Right, then lab. So part lab ni saya explain dululah, tapi nanti bila kita nak dekat dengan masa lab, kita akan I will explain again more lah about the lab. Okay, so lab pun sebenarnya sama. Okay, dalam part lab I have separate assessment for the lab. So biasanya kalau saya tak nak lab tu hanya evaluated based on lab report, because I think it's not fair lah. Means you pergi lab, you buat lab penat-penat, tapi markas semua kat lab report. So for my part lab, I have different types of assessment. Tapi again tak pun membebankan. So first is of course ada laboratory report lah, masih ada. So daripada Lab report, lab kan 20% overall grade. Tapi daripada 20% overall grade lab report tu hanya 10% or half of the lab marks are lab report. Okay, so hanya 50% je. Tapi daripada 20 markah lab tu, 10 markah saja yang lab report. And even lab report pun, saya buat macam mini project. Setiap student ada part dia sendiri. So means dia tak payah, dia hanya concentrate untuk part dia saja. So for example, kalau tengok dalam assessment ni, okay, student 1 dia akan buat summary, dia akan buat result. Okay, student 2 dia buat discussion je. So dia buat discussion je. Student 3 conclusion recommendation. Student 4 dia akan jawab tutorial sikit lah. And then dia compile bersama-sama, dia jadi one lab report. Okay, tapi kalau part ni, kalau macam mini project, nombor tu kekal. Means kalau mini project you are student 1, stage 1, stage 2 pun you are still student 1. Tapi untuk lab report tak boleh lah. Takkan setakat student 1 tu asyik buat result sepanjang eksperimen tu tak boleh. So sebab ada 4 eksperimen, reaction akan ada 4 eksperimen. So dia akan ambil turn. So katakan minggu ni di student 1 dia akan buat part 1. Katakan next week dia rotate jadi student 2. So dia akan buat part student 2. The next week dia jadi student 3. The following week dia jadi student 4. So setiap orang akan rotate lah. So setiap orang lab report tu dia akan buat semua part. Maknanya katakan minggu ni dia akan buat result. Minggu depan dia buat discussion. Minggu lagi dia buat conclusion. Minggu lagi dia buat tutorial. So dia ambil turn lah. Dia take turn berdu lah. So means everybody will have its own part. So that is to lessen the burden as well. So tu is on the lab report. Okay, so I think maybe what I can suggest, perhaps lab section kita buat bersama. Let's see how. If you can come physical, I would much prefer you can come physical. But if you cannot, we will discuss. Tapi part lab report tu, I will do the same. I think you just combine dengan student biasa lah untuk lab report. So that you don't have to do the entire lab report. Combine dengan student biasa, the same thing. Okay, you just take the number, you just do your part for the lab report. Okay, so next one, ada pre-lab. So pre-lab ni sebenarnya I just want the students to answer certain questions sebelum dia masuk lab. Kenapa? Sebab nak prepare dia untuk dia masuk lab. So apa yang student akan buat, dia kena, again sama juga, pre-lab pun ikut number dia. So katakan that week you are student 1, you buat chemical calculation. Sebab nanti nak masuk lab nak prepare chemical. So saya nak at least student tu sebelum masuk lab dia dah tahu what to calculate dan macam mana nak prepare chemical. So student 1 dia akan buat sedikit calculation. Student 2 pula akan do on the procedure. So dia akan summarize procedure tu to ensure that pada hari eksperimen tu dia dah tahu, budak student tu ni dah tahu macam mana nak run eksperimen. Student 3 ni sample calculation, sebab student 3 nanti bila masa lab dia akan catat result. So sebelum dia masuk lab dia dah practice lah macam mana nak catat result, so on and so forth. Student 4 ni dia akan observe masa lab and then dia akan solve. Kalau tekan ada problem kat lab, ada masalah kat lab masa eksperimen, student 4 ni akan report lah. So this pre-lab akan hantar lepas habis lab. Sejurus lepas habis lab memang pre-lab ni akan dihantar lah, dan pre-lab ni daripada overall 20%, 2% markah adalah pada pre-lab. So dia, kenapa saya buat ni, supaya at least student tu masuk dia dah tahu apa yang dia nak buat. So memudahkan dia pun faham macam mana lab tu berjalan. Then lastly, psychomotor. So as I said, saya tak nak kamu masuk lab tapi markah semua kat lab report. Macam tak adil lah. So what I do is 8 markah tu adalah psychomotor assessment. Masa kamu buat lab tu, I will just assess you masa kamu buat lab. So kalau kamu buat eksperimen safely, you wear your PPE, you can answer certain question. Bila buat lab, I will ask you questions. You can answer the questions, done. So you already get the 8 marks out of the final grade 8 markah tu on your psychomotor assessment. So I think that's fair daripada kita just evaluate buat lab report tapi student datang lab, penat-penat buat lab. So I rather give the marks to you guys when you are doing the experiment itself. So I will assess during the lab itself. Okay, so this is what I call as practical skill assessment. And then last one, just to introduce about the lab. So that's why I hope, I don't know whether your working place has a better reactors, but in terms of teaching and learning, I would say that my set has one of the best reactors for teaching and learning, for sure. Sebab saya daripada my degree and my masters in USM. My PhD is from Japan. My PhD is from Hiroshima University. And I can tell you our reactors for teaching and learning is way, way, way better than USM, for sure. Sebab kalau kamu tengok sini pun kamu boleh tengok reaktor kita memang I would not say industrial scale lah. I would say pilot scale lah sebenarnya lab kita. So in our experiment, kita ada 4 eksperimen kan, sebab we will study all the common types of the reactor. So macam eksperimen 1, kita akan belajar pasal batch reactor. Jadi later when we learn reaction pun kita akan belajar design ni lah. Batch reactor, CSTR, PFR. So I will start first with batch reactor. So dalam eksperimen 1, we will actually study batch reactor. So we will conduct a reaction, we call it as saponification, menghasilkan sabun. So it's etic acetate dengan sodium hydroxide. The reaction will produce sodium acetate, okay, and then ethanol lah. So sodium acetate tu sabun lah. So kita akan belajar mengenai reaction ni dalam our batch reactor. So that's the starting point of macam mana nak faham reactor, macam nak faham what's the difference. So I think you should by now probably you guys dah tahu batch reactor is a closed system kan. Why we say closed system? Sebab dalam batch reactor tu, okay, before reaction takes place, we put in our raw material. For example, sodium hydroxide, etic acetate. Then we will close our reactor, we will let the reaction takes place, and during the reaction, nothing goes in, nothing goes out. We don't disturb the system. So that's why it's called as a closed system. Nothing goes in, nothing goes out. Then after certain period of time, let's say depends on the reaction, then only you will take out your output, which can be the product and the unconverted reactant. So jangan lupa, kadang macam student previously, diorang selalu ingat lepas reaction terus dapat semua produk. Not necessarily. Unless semua your raw material is converted into product, there will be unconverted reactant as well after the reaction takes place. So always don't forget that part. Unless tindak balas dia 100% conversion, semua raw material converted, you will have a mixture of unconverted reactant and product after the reaction. So the concept, nothing goes in, nothing goes out, is a closed system. That's batch. Right. So kalau nak katakan dalam usually in the chemical plant, if you let's say the plant is trying to produce a new chemical, usually they will not they will not go to open system. They will try dengan batch reactor dulu. Sebab daripada batch reactor tu you can actually you will understand the nature of the reaction first. You establish the data, the experimental data, so on and so forth. Baru then they will upgrade or upscale to a continuous system. Okay. So then we will go to continuous system. So experiment 2 ni continuous system. Okay, so it called as it's an open system and we call the reactor as a continuous stir tank reactor. Okay, so before I forget, kalau perasan batch reactor ni yang sebelah kiri ni dengan CSTR yang sebelah kanan ni, kalau perasan dia sama. It's actually a cylindrical vessel kalau kamu perasan. And dua-dua vessel ni pun they have a stirrer. Okay, so batch and a continuous stir tank reactor, we call it CSTR, both actually has about the same characteristic, which is there is a vessel and the other stirrer. Okay, you know kan stirrer kan, why we need a stirrer in a reaction? For 2 important things. One, untuk pastikan the reaction occurs uniformly. Okay, maknanya reaction tu mesti occur uniformly at any parts of the reactor. Top ke, bottom ke, middle ke. Kalau kita nak pastikan tindak balas tu uniform, you must make sure that the concentration of your reactant, and if you are using heat, the heat. These two must be distributed evenly throughout the reactor. So the only way for you to achieve this is using stirrers, but stirrer can help to distribute the concentration and distribute the heat evenly. So that's why batch CSTR dia akan ada stirrer. Okay, next. Kalau if you can see clearly, biasanya this reactor will have an outer layer of cylindrical. Sebenarnya kalau tengok secara dekat, reaktor ni ada 2 lapisan tau. Ada cylindrical kat dalam, ada satu lagi lapisan cylindrical yang kat luar. So yang kat luar ni, it is a jacket. We call it a jacket, but it can be either heating jacket or cooling jacket. So kenapa? Sebab depends. Kalau your reaction needs to be heated, means reaction kamu memerlukan suhu yang tinggi. So you need to do what? You need to heat, right? So that vessel, yang outer vessel tu dipanggil heating jacket. So dalam heating jacket ni kena ada heating fluid sebab kita memerlukan certain fluid to transfer the heat. So we call it heating fluid. So Heating fluid ni depends on how high the temperature that you want. So if it's below 100, naturally you use water. But sometimes you can use steam. Sometimes they will use oil for temperatures that's above 100. So heating jacket when you want to heat. So similarly, if let's say you want a low temperature, you can have a cooling jacket. So you will still need a cooling fluid. So the function is to make sure the temperature is maintained at certain low temperature. So CSTR, CSTR and batch, konsep dia sama. Ada stirrer, ada heating jacket or cooling jacket depending on the reaction. But the big difference is batch reactor is a closed system, meaning masa tindak balas berlaku, nothing goes in, nothing goes out. Okay. But then, sedikit pengenalan, you might have a semi-batch reactor. Semi-batch ni maksudnya, contohnya, let's say you have two types of raw material, okay. But sometimes macam saya cakap nanti you learn in chapter 7 tau, sometimes you want to maintain concentration of certain reactant not to be as high as the other reactant sebab dia akan menyebabkan what we call as side reaction. Okay, so one of the way is you can run a semi-batch reactor. Let's say you have two reactant, reactant A, reactant B. So you will put in reactant A in the reactor dah, means awal-awal dah letak reactant A. Tapi semasa tindak balas tu berlaku, when the reaction occurs, you will feed in slowly reactant B. So dia macam semi-batch lah, bertutup untuk reactant A tapi dia macam buka untuk reactant B untuk masuk. So it's called semi-batch. But if you talk about completely batch, means completely closed. Okay. However, for CSTR pula, dia adalah open system or we call it flow system. So meaning there's always the reactant continuously introduced to the reactor, and same time the product and the unconverted reactant will flow out. So they flow in, flow out. Throughout the reaction, there's always going to be something feed in and something is going to flow out. So kalau tengok dalam gambar ni, you will realize that we got these two huge tanks. So dua huge tank ni adalah feed tank. So sebab reaction ni kita ada dua reactant. So the first feed tank is for sodium hydroxide. The other feed tank at the back you cannot see is for acetate. So kita akan pump acetate sodium hydroxide at a constant flow to the reactor, to the CSTR. So kalau kita tengok dalam sistem ni, kita akan pump, we set certain flow rate, they will pump to the reactor, to the CSTR. Then again, we will set, kalau batch reactor, kita akan evaluate based on reaction time, right? Kalau continuous system ni berdasarkan residence time or space time. Actually, it's called space time, berdasarkan space time. So after certain space time yang kita set, nak tak nak, the product or the unconverted reactant will have to flow out. So space time tu dipanggil sebagai how long actually the reactant stays in the reactor before it will be flown out. So that's the only difference, the main difference between batch and CSTR. CSTR is an open system. So if you realize from the picture on the right, nampak tak tank yang bawah yang besar tu adalah product tank. So akan ada feed tank masuk, akan flow out to the product tank. So this is example of a CSTR. The next one, in the on your left hand side is the third reactor, which is a plug flow reactor. So nanti kita belajar dalam reaction ni, kita akan design the three most common one lah. Batch, CSTR, and the third one is a PFR. So PFR ni lain, memang completely different from batch and CSTR. Okay. PFR is still an open system, means there's flow in and flow out. So kalau closed system, kita akan belajar hanya batch. For open system or flow system, kita akan belajar dua type, CSTR and PFR. So PFR ni uniqueness dia daripada the word plug flow reactor, dia actually adalah cylindrical pipe. Kalau kamu perasan dalam gambar ni, if you can see the pipe that tengah coiling, the pipe that is coiling, actually that is your PFR. Okay, bayangkan kalau kita pipe ni, kalau kita panjang lurus, it will take too much of space. So especially kalau chemical plant, space is money, right? So rather than dia letak pipe yang panjang ni, dia coilkan the pipe so that you can save a lot of space. So the coiling ni semua ni adalah actually the reactor itself. So how it works? Kalau perasan dalam gambar, we have 2 tank. Yang kat bawah tu, dua-dua tank ni adalah feed tank lah. So one is sodium hydroxide, one more ethyl acetate. So sama je, kita adjust dia punya flow rate. Bila kita adjust flow rate ni sebenarnya kita akan adjust space time dia tau. So certain flow rate kita akan tahu berapa space time dia. Then you will flow from in this case is from bottom to top. So feed tank will flow from the bottom, enters the cylindrical pipe. So dia akan coil sampai atas, flow out to the product tank. So dalam gambar ni kalau nampak kat sebelah kiri, sebelah kanan tu ada satu product tank kan. Itu adalah product tank dia. So it will feed tank flows from the bottom of the PFR, it travels across the pipe, and then it will goes out at the top and flows back to the product tank. Okay, so evidently PFR tak ada stirrer lah. Okay, CSTR batch dia adalah vessel, dia boleh ada stirrer. So kalau PFR ni dia tak ada stirrer. So bila tak ada stirrer, that's the main challenge. Dia punya temperature distribution tu can be a little bit problem, and the concentration juga. Sebab kalau case batch dengan PFR, concentration dia adalah uniform throughout the reactor. But for PFR, definitely tak. Sebab for PFR, dia akan travel, right? Dia akan travel from one end to the other end. So concentration product, concentration reactant mesti takkan sama pada part-part dalam reactor tu. So that's the difference. But then you realise dalam PFR ni nampak tak kat luar tu ada satu lagi vessel kan? Sama je. Vessel luar tu adalah either heating jacket or cooling jacket depending on what you want towards the reaction. So in our lab kita akan ada this is the water bath lah. We call it as heating bath lah. So to supply the heated water to heat our reactor. So nanti dalam lab we will study the effect of residence time. We will study the effect of temperature lah. So either one, okay. So depends on assigned one. So we will learn apa berlaku pada reaction kita kalau kita ubah suhu. What happens to our reaction if we change the flow rate, so on and so forth. So that's what we do in the experiment. Okay. So next one, yang experiment 4 ni, experiment 4 ni is something different because experiment 4 ni, kalau you nak tahu in reactor, sometimes one reactor will not give you good conversion. Okay, kita tahu dalam konsep reaction, kita nak semua raw material converted into product kan, sebab semua kalau tukar kepada produk, dapat produk lah kan. Sebab kalau kita dapat produk, let's say katakan conversion reactor tu rendah, let's say you put in your raw material, katakan only half is converted. So maknanya half jadi produk, ada lagi baki raw material tu. So I think you know, kalau dalam chemical plant, that is actually a waste. Dia tak boleh just buang sebab raw material tu adalah duit. So what will need to do, they have to incur cost untuk separate dan recycle balik. Okay, so we always want to avoid that. That's why they want to have reactor letak mangkis supaya we have higher conversion, more product will get. But however, in certain case, this cannot be achieved by using one reactor. Okay, most of the time dia tak boleh achieve. So you have few option. Option satu, either you flow out, separate, recycle balik, atau option two, rather than doing that, what they do is they flow to the next reactor. Means the reactor will be connected, what we call as in series. So kalau nampak dalam gambar dalam bahagian kanan ni, nampak tak 3 vessel yang sama. So these three are actually CSTR in series. So maksudnya dia akan flow kepada reaktor pertama. You imagine they flow to the first reactor. Let's say conversion hanya 50%. Means ada lagi 50% raw material, right? So apa yang berlaku? Yang after they flow out from first reactor, dia akan terus flow directly to the second reactor. So kenapa? Sebab when you flow to the second reactor, you give more chance for the unconverted reactor untuk bertindak balas. So kamu tak payah asing recycle, kamu sambung je pada reaktor seterusnya. So you allow them another chance, another time to actually have higher conversion. So mungkin baki 50% tu lepas masuk reaktor kedua, mungkin lagi 20% ke lagi 30% akan converted. So now you left with maybe less than 10% conversion, and then it can be more than one. So dia boleh jadi lebih pada 2. Macam kes ni dia ada 3 reaktor yang bersambung secara bersiri. So flow to reactor 1, flow straight to reactor 2, flow straight to reactor 3. So it's still an open system, no? Flow in, flow out, tapi dia akan masuk kepada 3 reaktor, and finally at the last reactor only you get the product. So with the hope more reactor, more chance, more conversion, more product. So that's what we're going to do in our experiment. Kita compare 3 reactor CSTR in series ni with one single CSTR. So the CSTR yang kat belah kanan tu, yang satu ni adalah single CSTR. So kita akan compare reaction yang sama, flow rate yang sama, residence time the same, but we will compare when we run using one CSTR or when we are using 3 separate CSTR in series. And the next one, yang ada satu lagi reaktor lain pula. Okay, dalam sistem ni adalah kalau kamu tengok kat belakang ni, nampak tak reaktor yang call ni, tapi ada 2 kan? So this is actually PFR, but PFR 2 in series. So sama konsep, macam konsep CSTR, PFR pun sama. Instead of using one PFR, katakan tak dapat conversion yang tinggi, separate recycle, you can connect to the next PFR. So our apparatus has that, where we also study the same reaction, same residence time, but using 2 PFR in series, and we will compare the performance as well of this reactor. So apa yang kita buat kat lab ni sebenarnya apa yang kita akan belajar. So later you will learn in reaction, kita akan design reactor bukan single saja, kita akan design juga reactor yang in series. Or sometimes what I do in a class, I will give you a scenario. So for example, katakan dalam senario ni, instead of mungkin kita fikir, okay, katakan untuk tindak balas ni, bila kamu kira, kita memerlukan katakan satu reaktor yang sebesar, let's say 20 liter. Okay. But then I will teach you, not necessarily you kena guna satu reactor yang 20 liter. You might actually be able to achieve the same conversion, the same outcome dengan menggunakan 2 reaktor yang lebih kecil. So not necessarily one big reactor, you might actually be able to use 2 smaller reactor to achieve the same output, which is the same product, the same conversion. So that's how we learn macam mana design of reactor can be manipulated according to your calculation, according to our knowledge on this. So that's what you're going to learn lah. So that's why you do in lab and then you will learn in the calculation as well. So part tu lah yang kompleks. Nanti kamu akan belajar single, kamu kena belajar series, kamu kena belajar pula kalau tindak balas ni lain sikit macam mana apa yang berlaku. So that will be the hard part lah. Okay, so reference book, actually this is the most common one. Kalau pergi mana-mana pun, kalau reaction engineering, dia akan guna buku ni, buku Fogler. They call it Fogler. Okay, so the latest version is 2021. I think our library has the soft copy e-book untuk buku ni, tapi I have to check. I think that day I saw that they put it in our library, the e-book. Means you can download lah. I will check for you guys, but if you cannot catch of the book pun okay je. I think my notes, I think the things that you do in the class later, tutorial and so on should be more than enough. But if you can find the book, I will try to find the link. Referring to this book is be very good. Sebab nanti you pergi mana-mana pun cakap dengan budak reaction, mesti dia kata Fogler. Fogler is the main reference book for reaction engineering. And these are the rest of the books that you can use as well for the course. Okay, so saya dah habis briefing. It's already 1 hour as well, so I don't think I will go to chapter 1. I will continue next week sebab student yang biasa pun minggu ni saya buat just course intro. So I will start the course more aggressively next week lah. So next week kita akan masuk chapter 1 lah. So chapter 1 tu dah start kena serious lah. Hari ni just course briefing, just for you to understand what is going to be for the course. So is there any question ke? Ada apa-apa komen ke? Kalau tak, memang dah habis lah untuk hari ni. Kita jumpa untuk minggu depan. So minggu depan tutorial tak start lagi lah. Sebab tutorial biasanya saya kena habis sampai chapter 2. Macam tu baru boleh start tutorial. So tutorial probably about week 4, week 3, week 4 baru start tutorial lah. Week 2, week 3 is mainly on the lecture. Okay, so ada apa-apa soalan tak?
Doktor, saya dengan Aizat, kita orang ada different schedule kerja.
Okey, faham.
Jadi kalau macam one of us tak boleh join, so can doktor record dan
saya memang record. Saya memang record. All my class memang akan direkod lah.
Okey. Kalau kita tak dapat je, kita orang kena beritahu doktor lah kan?
Betul lah. Betul. Just tell me lah macam mana perjalanan dia lah. Ke kalau kamu ada seorang pun kamu nak buat kelas ke atau macam mana?
Kalau sebelum ni punya subjek, kalau Seorang biasanya kita orang minta lecturer untuk record sajalah. Tadi mana lecturer tak perlu saya seorang. Kalau biasanya saya seorang je.
Boleh sebab saya memang saya akan rekod untuk student yang kelas biasa. So katakan minggu tu kamu berdua tak dapat hadir, can I just share the record untuk kelas untuk saya buat untuk kelas yang student biasa?
Boleh Doktor. Tak ada masalah.
Boleh kan? Boleh. That will be okay as well. So sebab saya faham. So kamu just beritahu saya lah katakan minggu tu macam mana perjalanan dia. I understand. I will try to fit to you guys. The other option is saya akan share video yang kelas student biasa lah.
Then untuk tutorial class will be every week ataupun macam mana?
Every week. Tapi tengoklah macam contohnya macam saya kena habis tutorial sebenarnya hanya chapter 2 sampai chapter 6 je. Chapter 1 pun tak ada tutorial sebenarnya. Chapter 2 to chapter 6. So that week ada tutorial saya akan inform lah sampai saya habis tutorial chapter 6.
Oh, okay Doktor.
Tapi the same, if tak boleh datang pun saya akan record video yang tutorial kelas student biasa lah. And then tutorial saya memang saya akan bukan tunjuk jalan kerja semua. I will really explain step by step so that sebab subjek ni memang susah, memang student akan kata subjek ni susah. So normally tutorial I will really teach you step by step. So even if you miss the class pun tengok video memang should be no problem for you to do the questions lah.
Oh, okay.
Alright. Aizat, apa-apa tak Aizat?
So far tak ada Doktor.
Aizat dulu memang student diploma mindset ke? Oh, tahun bila?
2007 tak salah.
Saya masuk 2009 setahun. Kamu kenal saya tak time tu?
Kenal.
Oh, kamu kenal saya ke? Lah. Saya ajar kamu ke reactor? Tak
Tak ingat Doktor, tapi saya kenal Doktor.
Oh, okey. Saya jumpa balik lah. Hidayah mindset dulu ke atau macam mana?
Mindset.
Diploma kat mindset lah.
Tahun 2012.
Oh, maknanya Hidayah kenal saya lah. Pernah jumpa lah.
Pernah jumpa tapi belum pernah masuk kelas Doktor lah.
Kamu kerja kat mana kalau kamu tak, you don't mind to share, saya tahulah background kamu sikit.
Ajak dulu ke?
Mana-mana pun boleh.
Doktor, saya kerja dekat Petronas. Pernah pisah.
Oh, nice. Jadi apa Aizat? Kerja kamu sebagai apa?
Technician je.
Yelah, part mana?
Saya control boiler.
Nice. Aizat nanti apa-apa knowledge share dengan saya lah Aizat. Janganlah, bukan saya je bagi ilmu tau. Saya pasti kamu yang bekerja ni lagi banyak ilmu daripada saya. Share jugalah ilmu
Okay.
Dah berapa lama dah kerja Petronas?
Baru 3 tahun.
Dah lama juga 3 tahun.
Sebelum ni saya chemical vendor kat sana.
Oh, okay. Memang kerja shift lah Aizat?
Memang kerja shift lah tu.
Itulah saya tengok Aizat kerja shift. Mencabar jugalah kerja shift dengan belajar. Memang saya tabik lah. Tapi boleh je. Habis je.
Honestly, takut kan ni masuk reaction ni.
Saya tahu, normal. Sudah biasa pun takut. Sebab dia susah, macam dia banyak pengiraan lah. Tapi boleh je, no problem. Can. Really can, don't worry. Macam Hidayah kerja mana Hidayah?
Saya kerja kilang kabel dekat Alur Gajah.
Okay. Hidayah anak Cik Azrin kan?
Yes.
Okay. Alright. So, itulah sebab I understand yang you all bekerja. So, you just arrange the time accordingly. Macam saya okay. Saya very flexible. So, you have class. You tak boleh buat class, just inform me. Saya akan upload video dalam Teams ni lah for you guys to see. So, saya akan guna YouTube lah supaya senang kamu nak tengok link dia. Okay. So, ada apa-apa tak? So, saya sambung minggu depan Minggu ni kita slow dulu, slow and steady. Minggu depan baru kita start
Dengan Dato' punya penerangan pun saya dah wow.
Apa dia?
Dengan Dato' punya penerangan pun saya rasa wah susahnya subjek ni.
Dia macam dia kan tak susah kalau dia reaction ni tak boleh hafal. Memang tak boleh hafal. Formula tu akan rasa ada banyak formula. Tapi sebenarnya kalau faham macam dia dapat formula tu jadi senang. Dia jadi susah kan kalau kamu akan belajar dalam 30-40 formula tau. Memang tak boleh hafal pun. Tapi kalau kamu faham macam mana dia terjadi, benda tu senang. Sebab tu student kadang-kadang final exam boleh score 100 kot. Nak kata susah, student score 100 kot. Setiap semester will have students who can score perfect mark. So maksudnya dia kalau faham memang senang. Kalau tak faham dia jadi mencabar. Tu cabaran dia actually is my responsibility lah to make sure you faham. Kalau you faham memang subjek ni senang sebenarnya. Serius senang. Tapi kena faham. Tapi kena faham lah. Boleh. Don't worry, I dah ajar 16 semester. Don't worry, I can assure you it's not a big problem. Aizat pun tahu kan daripada 2009 kot. Aizat kena saya tahu kan. Lepas tu saya pergi belajar. Saya balik 2013 start semester saya ajar reaction. Yeah. So memang saya dah tahu. Saya dah faham macam setiap student tu punya cabaran tu, bukan cakap saya apa lah, tapi saya memang dah tahu setiap student tu apa cabaran dia tu, saya rasa saya dah tahu. So macam I can really help you, but kena, tapi tak boleh tinggal lah, subjek ni tak boleh tinggal. Macam you kena selalu, kalau tinggal lama sikit, dia jadi struggle sikit lah, tapi okey je, boleh je. Apa dia? Tapi you all dah ambil separation tak?
Baru saya lepas.
Lepas separation boleh lepas reaction kot. CPP lepas kan? CPP lepas kan?
Yes.
Dia CPP, separation, reaction, termo. Boleh lepas, dia lepas reaction kan? Yang lain semua dah senang. Subjek lain lepas tu dah senang dah sebenarnya. Soalnya kalau student struggle sampai SEM 4 sampai reaction. Dia lepas reaction memang kadang-kadang saya tengok CGPA kan. Student akan struggle sampai SEM 4. Lepas tu CGPA dia naik sebab dia dah lepas subjek yang susah ni. Usually lah. And then macam saya ajar reaction ni, nanti SEM depan kamu ambil design project dah senang dah. Sebab design project kamu dah tahu dah nak design satu benda. So settle lah. Itulah. Apa dia?
Saya try sebaik yang boleh untuk subjek ni.
Okay, no problem. So ada apa-apa lagi tak? Kata kita jumpa minggu depan
So far, thank you, Dr.
Alright, thank you Hidayah, thank you Aizat. See you next week. Bye-bye. No worries.
Have a happy weekend.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.